The S&P 500 hits all-time highs. The Nasdaq 100 basically ends the day at them. Now, we had Jerome Powell talking to Congress and basically soothing the overall pain. He told them, look, rate cuts are just about to come. We feel very good about where we're at. He really said nothing negative about the market and said we're actually moving pretty great. Now, there's one key factor over the next day or so that we need to be paying attention because data comes out tomorrow. That's really going to tell us everything we need to know and maybe push the Fed to cut sooner than later. And that I'm not going to gatekeep. It comes out very early in the morning. We got non-farm payrolls and a few other payroll and unemployment data as well. Now, what they have said is if unemployment data rises a little bit unexpectedly or starts to jump up, which they want it to rise to signal inflation to come down further, then they will probably cut rates sooner than later. That's a good note of what you're looking for. So that comes out bright and early, 8:30 a.m. Now, I do want to go into depth about where we're at and how we're trading, but you can see here, you literally are just sitting at all-time highs, basically here on SPY, ES. You're sitting there. Very great candles are coming in right now. If we look a little bit deeper, we look at what's happening here with Nasdaq. Again, you came basically right into that level. You're kind of just sitting here right now. You still look phenomenal. Now, again, on the day as well, we go into DXY, what's happening here with the yields, everything like that. Risk on indicators, they are dropping very, very hard. We saw the 30-year yield come back down to 4.2 this morning and kind of bounce so far, but I expect more sell side there as well. Oil remains pretty elevated as well. But when we look at some of these equities that we've been covering, NVIDIA pushing all-time highs here in the after hours at 938, again at all-time highs. We see Netflix pushing it back into highs. We see Meta making all new highs, all-time highs once again. Just going berserk, right? You're going crazy today. A lot of names we talking about. So again, the market's still clearly strong. And the overall viewpoint that we had of basically going into the market from Tuesday to now was going into the Congress meetings with Fed Powell that we expected downside. Coming out of the meetings, we expected upside, right? We expected some hedging because you never know what's going to be said. But after 30 minutes of listening to Powell, it was clear where his head was and where we were going. And we had some, crazy statements by a few other Fed members, but overall, the market still looks good. And then you had Fed Mester come out today as well. Quick Google search will just tell you this as well. Quick Fed Mester, she's rate cuts happening this year if inflation keeps cooling, and said he was pretty happy with everything that's going on here as well. So again, that's what they're looking at. They're basically all very happy. Again, I'm not saying that's the right path, but I'm just saying that's the path that we're on, and that's what the Fed continues to say. So that's the number one thing that you have to be paying attention to. Now, when we go in and we look at that inflation data or things like DXY or things happening there, again, these are good signs for us. And that's why when the market was dipping and DXY was dipping, I was like, this thing's probably looking great. I'm still looking for DXY to continue to fall back to the downside. But the most promising thing here is the 30-year yield. Again, the 30-year yield looks just like Tesla. Everyone's, man, this thing looks great. It's popping up. No, it's a giant bear flag, right? It's very quick, clear, and easy to see. You can see how you're forming out. It's a clear bear flag back into a key level, previous 2022 highs. You rejected, you pushed back down. Now, again, I've said this over and over and over. When we break below 4% on the 30-year yield, good things will happen. I am telling you, where this whole bull run started back in beginning of 2023 was right here. This is right where it started. And guess what happened? You broke down below. That's when stocks found their bottom. Nasdaq, ES, etc. was back in November 2022. It's when you broke below 4%. So those are things that you have to look at. And when the market, had a little bit of a pullback was when you broke back above 4% in July of this past year. So again, things to be looking at. So when this breaks down, again, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be great. So you definitely have to be watching that as well. So overall, that's what I'm looking at there. And again, you can look more at what's happening here. You can quickly go over all the viewpoints from Congress and things like that. If you're also in Discord, I do encourage you. The news bot has all this as well for you. So you can just quickly scroll through all this just so you know. But I just want that to be a heads up so you can look at that. Now, on top of that, we had AVGO announce their earnings today. They're down a little bit here in the after hours. They kind of bounced back, but now they're just bouncing back up so far. Now, overall, they're still beating. They're still smashing. You actually just saw that on the news bar here. Broadcom's AVGO CEO just said AI revenue for the company went up 4x year over year in its quarter number one, up to $2.3 billion. So again, very good viewpoint of what's happening here. Now, the problem though with some of these other companies that aren't NVIDIA is they can't capitalize on everything as well as NVIDIA can. NVIDIA just dominates in all sectors, not just one. And that's why NVIDIA continues to rip. And that's why NVIDIA is probably up here in the after hours, that even though Broadcom can't do it, NVIDIA continues to do what no one else can. So this is definitely something that you have to be paying very close attention to. Now, I also do want to bring the indicator back up right there as well. So again, now when we're looking at broad markets, we're looking at stocks. I don't want to keep you super long. We're going to go straight into equities as well here, right? You look extremely good, right? IWM remains at highs, 207, very bullish. We've gone over DXY, yields, Bitcoin. Now, I'm going to go into this chart for a second. I'm going to use this chart a lot over the next few weeks. Bitcoin looks phenomenal. You're back at all. You're basically just chilling, at all-time highs, consolidating there. Now, what do we expect when we consolidate at all-time highs? Typically good things. If sellers cannot have the ability to push you back down when they get the opportunity that they have here, like they did, again, it's a very telling sign of who has the strength and the momentum there. So things you should be considering and watching for all the time. Also, too, Ethereum's outperforming Bitcoin now. It's actually sitting above its previous high that it had from Tuesday when Bitcoin reached all-time highs. Worth mentioning. But I want to go into this in detail because everyone freaks out when they say Bitcoin's going to crash and this and that. I want to put things in perspective. I think perspective can help you with anything you're doing when it comes to trading specifically. Now, along with journaling, but looking back at past data and statistics can help you a lot, right? That's why we use Edgeful a lot. That's why I like to use this as well. So again, when I look at Bitcoin's halving, this line right here, these lines represent when we had the halvings. Halving, I don't know, right? That's when it happened. Look at Bitcoin's price after. You could argue all of your best runs on Bitcoin have come after the halving. I'm just saying, in 2021, when you had your massive run from like 13,000 to almost 60K, again, that was after. Worth mentioning, things you have to consider. So when you're looking at Bitcoin in this viewpoint, I think it's really important to understand that we still have like 6 months until the election after April, or a few months at least, right? And then you also have the market moving in the most bullish structure possible. And I know what people think. When the Fed starts to cut rates, we're going to start seeing downside because in previous cases, and Tyler, you mentioned statistics, in previous cases, Tyler, when we cut rates, the market typically drops. Now, first of all, when we look at that data, it's very important to realize the time frame in which you drop. Do you drop for the next year or do you drop necessarily for the next month? Very important to look at that data. Go look at it for yourself on average. Now, I also want to say something. It's very silly for us to use certain data points, but ignore what's happening, right? So it's like if I just measure how much rain typically falls in Houston, right? If I look at every thunderstorm that happens, right? But then there's a giant hurricane like Hurricane Harvey that comes. Well, it just sits on top of Houston for 2 days and just rains nonstop. Now, would that probably be an anomaly? It would be, because traditionally a rainstorm doesn't just sit on top of your city for 2 weeks or 2 days. And then the whole city floods and nothing changes for 3 weeks and there's extreme damage, right? So what am I saying there? Well, traditionally in the market, again, go look for yourself. How does the Fed typically cut rates? And this should be an education for a lot of the trolls that don't do the education down below. I'm trying to educate and help the guys that do pay attention. Well, traditionally you cut rates and then you raise them a little bit and then inflation dies down and then you let it relax and then you might raise again and then it'll relax, and then you'll cut rates, and then you'll raise them again. So it's like a stair, typically, how you do it. It goes up, down, up, down. And this happens over like a year, 2 year period, how you handle inflation. Go back to 2018. Go look what happened there. Now, we look at what's happening here. What happened from 2022 to 2023? It's very simple. We only raised rates, and we didn't pause the action of raising rates for a whole year. So we basically, the whole year of 2022, we just raised rates. And not only did we raise them by 0.25, but we raised by 0.5, 0.75. We shocked the market. It was so shocked that homeowners were getting 2-3% interest rates on their home mortgages. Businesses were paying little to nothing. We had PPP loans that had no interest on them during COVID, right? Things had never happened like this. So what happened to the market is you have a shock where no one wants to take loans out because it's silly right now. That's why when you look at the market of companies that are doing really well, this is very interesting. People want to say, oh, it's just the Mag 7, right? Well, let's really think about those companies that did so well. Now, Apple's pulling back, but what I will say is if you look at the monthly chart, I mean, you had a really good run. You hit back into all-time highs. Meta, back into all-time highs. NVIDIA, all-time highs. I could continue to go on a list. Microsoft, all-time highs. I mean, the tech names specifically, right? Very important to look at those. You know what they have in common? They have extreme amounts of cash on hand. Now, they don't have to take loans to innovate. They don't have to take loans to acquire struggling businesses, to diversify, to take advantage of struggling markets. They don't have to. Those are the only companies in the market that have the arsenal to attack. Every other company, small, mid caps, things like that, those are major growth companies. All they do is borrow money. In 2021, that's all these IPOs and SPACs did. They just took money, borrow. Now, what happens when they can't? Obviously, their numbers get destroyed. Their marketing goes down. Their growth stagnates. It dies. That's what you're seeing happening in small and mid caps. That's why when we look at small and mid caps, IWM in particular, you're just now trying to break out. You've been in a 2-year long box. Worth mentioning. There was no growth there. There was nothing happening. You just did nothing for 2 years. Really think about what happened. You're just now trying to break back out. So again, think about the logic there. So in my opinion, what I think will happen when we cut rates, maybe it won't happen the next day. I believe it's going to happen pretty quick, but you're going to see an influx of buying, an influx of borrowing. And if you're actually a bear, that's where you think things would become an issue because you'd still be borrowing at high rates. But again, it's the fear that they won't raise or they won't cut rates anymore. They'll raise them once again. So that's the thing that you have to be really thinking about. And that's what I'm hyper focused on. A great, for instance, for me and you is the real estate market. Now, again, I tweeted something out today about this. And I said I was going to keep you long, but turns out I'm ranting, so it's going to be here for a while. Sorry. Powell said something very interesting at his meeting with Congress. The Democrats, Republicans, everyone likes to say, you are the reason home prices are so high, which to a certain extent, they're the more reasons for rent prices. When rates normalized, underlying housing shortage will still put upward pressure on prices. It's simple. It's a supply and demand issue with homes. There are more buyers than there are actual homes for sale in the United States of America. Prices will continue to rise. They're actually the only asset that really should appreciate over time. Who would have thought? They teach you that in literally 7th grade mathematics or economics. Like literally, you learn it in 7th, 8th grade. I know we all think that the housing market is going to crash and it's a bubble. Well, it's not. Spoiler alert. So again, these are all things to think about. And I believe the market will be stronger than ever when we cut rates. Now, when the issues might arise or after the next election, in my opinion. But until then, I think full steam ahead. Now, and again, you're probably looking at my thumbnail saying, Tyler, where the hell did you go with that? Because that thumbnail did not give me that answer. But I haven't even made the thumbnail yet, but I know it's going to be bearish. So again, let's go over some names. NVIDIA. Again, I was hyper bullish on this name, guys. I said over 804. It is the play. It is the play. It is the play. I mean, if you were in Discord, you heard me screaming and hollering about this. I said, do whatever you want. Doesn't matter what you get. It doesn't matter. Okay. Again, on Twitter, literally verbatim, I believe I said I'm going to mortgage my house if NVIDIA breaks 804. Let me make sure. Yeah. So Colin tweeted this and I literally put over 804, mortgage my house, all in. Literally over that level. I was literally going on and on about this. And it was on here, on Twitter, or on YouTube. So now you're breaking up once again and again and again. All you're looking for is amounts above highs. We might not even get that touch. So again, NVIDIA is very strong. It's holding the market very, very strong. Next up, AMD. AMD, really nice. Really, really nice. It's just pinching straight out of this level. I'm watching this level right here, around 211. If you hold that level, I'm still really bullish. I'm looking for continuation of the upside, your previous all-time high. And then you want to see a push back to the upside. You couldn't get the breakout. I was looking for the breakout. You did not get that today. You just moved sideways. So that's where we're at. I still like AMD. I still think they're going to print. I still think they're going to do very good. And I think they're overall going to be undervalued. I think their value is going to keep. I think AMD has NVIDIA-like potential. Coinbase, Impressive name. Again, I said above 208, 210. It's a long. You actually get the break and then the retest back into 215. That was nice. But again, you're back above 240. Target here is 270. I can only say it so many times. Robinhood, you look fine. I want to see us hold above 16.5. We're kind of just consolidating with the market right now. Apple, extremely bearish, not touching it. Meta, I said yesterday, you mount 504. It's an easy long. This morning on the 5-minute, you can see what happened here. You broke above 504, consolidated, shot up, and you never looked back. Again, all these levels were mentioned here as well, not just gatekeeped in Discord. Microsoft, I like what Microsoft is doing, but there's an issue here. Microsoft is probably going to be my next really big play. I'll tell you that right now. How do I know? What do I see? Microsoft has a pattern. And it's similar to AMD. You get really volatile, you consolidate, you break up, get volatile, consolidate, same thing. I'm looking for Microsoft to ever get a hold above 415. I believe they are worth, they're going to continue to grow. I have no doubt in my mind. They're dominating an AI use case, not development of chips or anything like that. And then also with their cloud space as well. They're just killing it across the board. But again, I like Microsoft a lot. Think real potential. Have to keep it on your map, but you have to wait for the mount to 415 here. You have some scalps you can trade in between, like above 407 into 410, below 407 into 404, 403. But until then, you're just kind of risking stuff right now. Again, Amazon, another easy trade here. We said over 173.5 into 175, over 175 into 177. So really easy. You're respecting all your levels right now. You're kind of down here in the after hours. But again, at those levels, you have the test and opportunity. I like Amazon a lot. It's still doing well. I'm not covering Google. I don't really care for it. Costco had earnings pushing into all-time, or actually dropping in the after hours. Had a great push in all-time highs. I had a viewpoint that Costco wouldn't do that well in consideration to Target. Target's killing it. They're doing everything they need to do. A great idea or viewpoint of a company that's innovating while other companies aren't really doing much. So again, I like Target a lot. If it gives above 174.5, it's an immediate long above the 200 SMA on the weekly. So keep that on the top of your watch list as well. Those are all the names that I'm watching right now. Nothing too crazy. Those are my favorite. My top names: NVIDIA, Coinbase. Simple as that. I think Bitcoin's going to continue to run. I'm looking for the market to get a little bit more momentum. And again, I didn't actually use Edgeful too much today. But one thing, again, I just feel like sometimes you guys are in my head because I literally make the same content every day. So like, I feel like you guys should know things before I say them, which is kind of my fault. But we do know Fridays on the week have a 40% chance, the highest opportunity, highest percent chance to be the highest close of the week. Based on Edgeful Day. The link is down below if you want to check them out. You get a free 7-day trial. But really important to understand that 21 of the last 52 weeks have had their highest close on Friday. And Thursday's momentum usually leads into Fridays. We also know volume. This is the S&P 500, by the way. We go to volume here. And again, highest volume typically on Friday. So these are all great signs for continuation into tomorrow, what I want to see. But again, got to trade the price action, take it for what we'll get. I'll have some levels posted on Twitter as well for Nasdaq and ES with the futures contract rollover. Have a good one, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.